Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Maisy Mok. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. All typhoon signals were lowered this afternoon, but public transport chaos last night leaves authorities searching for answers. Israel announces complete siege of Gaza as rocket attacks from militants continue. It was the wettest October day on record as Typhoon Conew triggered downpours across Hong Kong. And with the observatory lowering the number 8 signal before noon, commuters had to scramble back to work. Janice Low reports.
With Conew moving away from Hong Kong, the observatory announced before 6 a.m. that the number 8 typhoon signal would be lowered before noon. That meant most people had to return to their offices by early afternoon, setting in motion a lunchtime commuting rush. Residents in areas not covered by the MTR network, such as Aberdeen, had to rely on bus services, which gradually resumed from 11 a.m. Current labor regulations require employees to report to duty within 2 hours of the lowering of a storm signal. But many left home even when the number 8 signal was still in force. I just wanted to avoid the crowds, this man explained. There were surprisingly few people at Shatin MTR station, with only dozens of passengers sighted on the platform at around noon. But most trains were still filled to the brim as they departed. But road transport struggled to resume normal service. At the public transport interchange nearby, thousands of people were in the queue to get on minibuses. This man, who arrived 20 minutes ago, told us he was prepared to wait for another half an hour before getting on a minibus. I didn't expect it would take that long, he added. Ferry services also resumed by early afternoon, taking people in and out of outlying islands. But apart from the commuting trouble, Hong Kong was relatively unscathed from the latest typhoon, which also triggered the second black rainstorm signal of the year. Around 334 millimeters of rain was recorded as of noon, the most for a single October day. The previous record of 329.7 millimeters was set by Tropical Storm Lion Rock 2 years ago. Janice Low, HKIBC.
There was confusion and anger for thousands of MTR passengers last night after their journeys were cut short under the number 9 typhoon signal. Inbound tourists were also left to fend for themselves at the airport. It was a sight to behold. Hundreds of people lined up at the taxi stand outside Haughey MTR station last night. Their train ride came to a sudden halt after the observatory issued the number 9 typhoon signal at 7 p.m. Under safety rules, the MTR would suspend service for outdoor sections if a number 9 or higher signal was in force. This man was furious that the observatory only gave the public 15 minutes of notice. Had the warning come earlier, the man said he would have left work in advance. With so many people scrambling to get home, this woman said she had to offer a tip of $1,000 in order to reserve a cab. When her driver arrived, several others surrounded the taxi, hoping to ride share. She eventually left with 3 others who agreed to split the fare. It was a similar situation at Tsuen Wan West Station, where thousands heading to northwestern New Territories were stranded. A coach rental firm decided to take matters into its own hands by offering commuters free rides to Tuen Mun. The company won applause after mobilizing 8 coaches and sent hundreds of people home. While inbound flights were able to land under poor weather, the nightmare for passengers only began after they arrived at the airport. With no public transport to the city, thousands were stranded at the arrival hall well beyond midnight. The airport authorities said around 16,000 people landed at Cheklapkok during the number 9 signal, but only dozens of taxis turned up every hour.
After waiting for 4 hours for a taxi, I feel this is a great welcome to Hong Kong. There's no other choice. I've got to wait. There's no alternative. It's crazy.
Relief finally came at around midnight when the number 9 signal was lowered and airport express trains resumed service. Airport Authority Executive Director Stephen Yu said his colleagues had reached out to taxi trade groups for help, but there was simply not enough taxis on the road. He pledged to discuss the matter with the government and devise contingency plans under inclement weather. Chief Executive John Lee has told leaders from Southeast Asian countries that Hong Kong is ready to boost trade and economic ties. He also hosted Thailand's Prime Minister at Government House this afternoon. Janice Yu reports.
The typhoon may stop some of the activities of Hong Kong, but it will not stop Hong Kong's determination to do things we want to do.
While most people were sheltered at home this morning, John Lee was already busy promoting Hong Kong as a premier business hub. He was among dozens of officials and business leaders who braved the storm to attend a forum in Admiralty. The Hong Kong Asean Summit featured representatives from Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and other ASEAN countries.
Our ASEAN trade last year reached an all-time high of $165 billion, accounting for nearly 40% of Hong Kong's total trade with the world. We like to invest in each other's business opportunities. In 2021, ASEAN was the 6th largest source of inward direct investment into Hong Kong and the 3rd largest destination of our outward investment.
Lee continued his hectic day by hosting Thailand's Prime Minister, Sethwa Thwesan, at Government House. Writing on his Facebook page, Lee noted the close economic and trade relations between the two sides, pointing out Hong Kong is Thailand's 4th largest investor. Sethwa, who only took office in August, is currently on a 5-day regional tour to lure investment. He will next visit Brunei, Malaysia, and Singapore. Janice Yu, HKIBC.
Hong Kong University's Governing Council said it will set up an independent committee to look into allegations of mismanagement by President Zhang Xia.
We have resolved that a panel will be formed, a 5-person panel, headed by the Honourable Jimmy Ng, who is our audit chairman. So he will also be chairman of this investigation panel. That has 2 other members from council. One is Dr. Brian Stevenson, another is Mr. Jason Chew. 2 further members we will appoint in due course who are external in the sense that they are non-council members.
Before the meeting, the council's undergraduate representative, Casey Chick, stressed that Zhang should remain innocent until the panel completes its investigation. The group will submit a report within 12 weeks. Turning overseas, Israeli officials have announced a total blockade of the Gaza Strip, including a ban on food and fuel. Tensions remain high in the area, with airstrikes and rocket attacks. Sachin Khatvi reports.
Israel has announced a total blockade of Gaza, including a ban on food and fuel. Electricity was already severed in most parts of the settlement. Tensions are also mounting on Israel's northern border with Lebanon. Even though there is a strong presence of United Nations troops along the demarcation of the frontier, the Lebanese army is on heightened alert and stands in solidarity with their Hamas counterparts. Israeli security forces also conducted search and rescue operations in the south to flush out Hamas terrorists and rescue hostages. Some Hamas militants who breached the border along the Gaza Strip were sprayed with heavy gunfire. Israeli forces pushed back infiltrators in a bid to regain lost territory. More than 100,000 reservists have been summoned for duty. The Israeli military spokesman confirmed it had seized control of all communities near the Gaza barrier, but isolated battles are still being fought. Heavy artillery units are also being amassed at the border for an imminent full-scale assault on Gaza. Israeli air attacks on Gaza continued throughout the night, and the Palestinians responded with rocket fire, pounding southern Israel. More than 400 Palestinians have died in the conflict so far, and thousands are left homeless. But the casualties on the Israeli side are much higher for now, after Hamas militants attacked revelers at a music festival in the desert. At least 260 bodies have been recovered at the scene. With that figure, the Israeli toll stands at roughly 700. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
As fighting rages on in Israel for a third day, world opinion remains deeply divided on the complicated issue. Sachin Katwi reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden pledged to stand by Israel after the U.S. ally came under attack by Palestinian militants. In a show of support, a U.S. Navy carrier strike group has now set sail for the eastern Mediterranean. Even though the voyage was mostly symbolic, militant group Hamas described it an act of aggression against Palestinian people. Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also voiced his support for Israel.
I want to express my absolute solidarity for the people of Israel. Hamas and the people who support Hamas are fully responsible for this appalling act of terror, for the murder of civilians and for the kidnapping of innocent people, including children. We will do everything that we can to help. Terrorism will not prevail.
Australia also joined its Commonwealth partner in the growing chorus of condemnation.
Well, this already, I think, has been quite unthinkable. As you would expect, Israel has a right to defend itself, but Hamas bear the responsibility for this.
But the horrific attack was seen as an act of justice by many in Jordan, where hundreds gathered outside the Israeli embassy in the capital Amman to express solidarity with Hamas. Many Palestinians live as refugees in Jordan. Tensions also flared in neighboring Lebanon, a stronghold for the Iranian-backed terrorist outfit Hezbollah. Some felt that ongoing negotiations to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia led to the escalation of violence, and this attack was rather directed at Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman. There was a similar show of support for the Palestinian cause in the Iraqi capital Baghdad, where protesters burned the Israeli and US flags. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
Hong Kong stocks rose marginally in half-day trading after the morning session was cancelled because of the typhoon. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up by 31 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent was up $1.80, Meituan was up 60 cents, while BYD Company was up $1.20. Ping An was up 50 cents, JD.com was up 60 cents, while Tracker Fund was up 3 cents. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, euro is at 8.24, British pound is at 9.53, and the Australian dollar is at 4.98. And in the UK market, the London FTSE is currently up 16 points. On to the weather now. It will be cloudy with showers tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 24 and 28 degrees. Sunny periods are expected from Wednesday. That's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Maisy Mok. Thanks for watching. Good night.